I think that,
Yeah.
they search on Facebook, they go on Facebook, they find their reviews, their recommendations. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, for someone with limited internet usage, Facebook could easily be their entire world. I mean, it's versatile.
And so I say that to illustrate that as a business, you need to be available to be found
on Facebook,
on multiple channels, however you like to communicate with you.
So how am I sounding now? We're already having our first technical difficulties here.
It's very exciting. But yes, you sound good.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? First off, you guys were explaining it awesome. This is live radio, and we're going to be brave and make this work because it's important. It's important that we help local businesses be found by their customers, and so we have to push the envelope, and we've got to make sure that we make this possible.
So,
well, as the way that I became a web developer was I always had my own project on the side that I was always pushing to its extremes. And that really sort of allowed me to get better while not experimenting on my clients. I always had some experimental project on the side that I would push to extremes so that when it came to applying them to my clients, I was already ready for it. So,
well, we're going to experiment on live radio.
Yeah. We're pushing this to the extreme, man.
That's right. So, again, you can watch the show at beingfound.com. Couple stats, if we've still got time in this section here. There's a couple stats that I wanted to lay out, and again, I'm displaying them online if you want to look at the graph. But, one of the things that I think people think is going on with the internet and with search is that they think customers are sitting at home making a decision. Maybe I think I'm going to go buy something, and then they're spending a bunch of time at home Googling or searching for a product. And I call this my "Did you know" segment. And the thing is, did you know that they're also doing it while they're in a bus or car on their way to the store? Did you know that they're doing it in the store? Did you know that they're doing it at work, in restaurants, in bars, in hotels, at the airport? In other words, basically, while people are in motion and in progress, they now expect to find answers to whatever it is they're trying to do, whether it's the hours you're open, whether it's the prices of your products or competitors. Where's your store? Where's it located? And you got to ask yourself, are you being found in all these different times and places of motion that people are in? For instance, one of the stats is 51% of people surveyed by Google commissioned a survey. 51% of them said that they use their smartphone and they search while on a bus or in a car. 51% of the people they asked.
I'm not surprised.
No.
I was.
Were you?
Yeah, I don't know why, but so what are they searching for when they're doing that? I imagine they're probably searching for, are you open? Is your business open, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Price comparison.
So they're looking for the best price while they're driving to a store?
Yeah.
Well, in some cases, they might not actually be driving someplace specific. They might be, driving to the sort of ballpark area and trying to figure out, what the best place to go is.
Right.
That might be the minority, but I imagine that's a sizable segment.
Okay,
and also,
hold
the
on.
path is larger. They might be pursuing what they're going to do later.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we are coming up to the end of the first segment. This has been an exciting beginning segment as we're trying this out. Don't forget, you can go to beingfound.com and watch the show or listen to the show online, and we'll be right back after this break.
Joe's Web Geeks are the geeks your business has been looking for. Yeah, so one thing I was thinking about, I was waiting to the break to talk to you about with the searching in the car, and what they're doing. That I think is interesting about that is that not only are they doing that, but they're doing it seamlessly. I'll notice that you kind of consider I'm shopping for shoes and I'm playing Candy Crush as being two different things, but My wife will be doing both at the exact same time.
Yeah.
She'll just be flip-flopping between the two, and it's really this sort of organic, seamless process of mentally for people. There is no difference between shopping and playing online and all these things. It really sort of bleeds together into this online.
They're just on their phone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Is what people say.
And so if that's the case, what is it that businesses are supposed to do to catch somebody's attention or be found when they're playing Candy Crush and they go, oh, my daughter needs new shoes. Hop over to that window and look for shoes. What does that mean for that, Chauncey? What would you tell a business?
Well, I think it's all in, I think we need businesses to understand the reason why we're called being found. And ultimately that is that you are providing yourself to be available on all the different channels that different types of people use. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, that some people go on Facebook, and that is the internet to them. And some people use Google exclusively, and that's the internet to them. Some people are all over the place. Some people are all about email. Some people view it as a spam hole. It's really, there are large demographics of people that fall into different ways of using the internet. And if you want to be found, you need to be available for each of those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that can be daunting for businesses because they can say, well, now I have to have a whole campaign to target each of these things and blah, 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 and fight, but really, step one is to just be available in those things. And then when you find that you're getting some bites in one, you know that you need to put a little more effort in there.
Right. And, one of the ways to be available is we're going to talk about it when we come back in the show. But one of the ways to be available is put the monsters to work for you. Google
20 seconds.
Google is trying to help you found. Thanks, Jared. Now everyone can hear you boss me around. All right.
No.
I'll finish this thought when we get back on the air. Okay, welcome back to the Being Found show. So this show's going to be interesting. I hope you hang in there with us. We are live on radio, but we are also broadcasting, live streaming online. You can go to beingfound.com and you can join the show. There's really going to be kind of two shows happening. There's our regular radio show, but when we go to break for the radio show, we're still streaming live, and that's where we dig deeper into the topics and we talk about more. So feel free to join in wherever you can. This is our first time doing this, so I hope you bear with us and don't call and complain to the radio station how terrible it was. All right. So one of the things that we were talking about in the last segment was the statistics around when and how people are shopping or using the internet. And Chauncey was talking about during the break that you really do just have to start being found. You have to start getting into directories. You have to start making sure that people can find you. And one of the ways to do that is to put the monsters to work for you. By monsters, I mean Google and Yahoo, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to let you know about our guest that's going to be on the show later. We've got Vince Palco, a.k.a. the godfather of cartoon marketing.
Wow.
I like that.
I want to be the godfather of anything. So Vince has got really cool website. He's got some really cool concepts, and there's a lot of great cartoons I've seen that he's got. So this should be really interesting. And Vince's, he'll probably explain it better than me, but Vince's idea is that cartoons are a great way to explain complicated things or to sell your products. And so we're going to dive in and we're going to see, how do you do that? Is it cost a lot? Is it something we can all do? I personally like cartoons describing things, those little stick figures that are drawn out. So this should be interesting. Before we get into that, though, Sean, intern at large, or used to be intern at large, now content wizard, you were out interviewing people.
That is correct. Sometimes inadvertently, as was the case this week, I went to a restaurant that I don't think a lot of people know about, but it has a core of devoted followers who are absurdly passionate about it, called Sakura Sushi. It's just, if you're in Reading, you probably know where R&R Meats is. It's this little place just down the road from that. Very, very easy to miss, but very excellent food as well. And so I just went in there. It was kind of off hours. There weren't a lot of people in there, and I struck up conversation. And I found a number of interesting things. First of all, they said right off the bat, "Oh, we don't advertise. It's all word of mouth." And so that's interesting for a couple of reasons. First, their reason they gave why they don't advertise was because they felt it was too risky. Sushi is, you're dealing with expensive ingredients. You're dealing with a somewhat limited, though passionate audience. Your margins are very, very thin. And this whole operation is a two-person show. It's co-owned by the chef and the waitress, basically, are just trying to make this whole thing work. And so, neither of them have time to fiddle with it. And they mentioned, they've heard that marketing in general, advertising on the radio or the internet or what have you, can be hit or miss. And they just said they don't have the time or money to deal with that, which was fascinating because there is a lot of cheap stuff you can do, or stuff that really costs nothing, which I think we'll probably talk about a little more on the show.
Yeah, let's jump into that for a second, Sean, because you're using the word advertising, which I assume they're using.
Right, exactly.
And I hear that a lot too, and I just kind of want to separate two things. So there is advertising, paying for ads. There's being on TV, radio. There's that whole concept of pushing things out. But there's this other concept that really I think is the Holy Grail, which is this being found concept. That is, when people want sushi, when people are looking for food, when they're looking for a restaurant, when they're looking for the best places to eat, whatever it is, that you're being found for those. And that does not require the same budget advertising does, right?
Exactly. Well, what's ironic in this case is I heard about these people initially on the internet. I heard about them in a reference in a review of a different Japanese place. I don't remember where. Someone was comparing them to Sakura Sushi, and I love Japanese, so I had to try them.
So you heard it by word of mouth on the internet.
Well, sort of. As I said, they have a core of devoted fans.
They absolutely
who are sort of marketing them for them.
For them, right.
They have a Yelp page. They have a Google My Business. They have tons of reviews, which are all glowing. And so they do sort of, in spite of themselves, have a being found presence.
Yeah. And now, did you get the impression that they were aware of how to manage that being found presence?
Well, they just don't.
They just don't.
Regardless of whether they're aware or not, they don't think about doing that at all. They consider that to be an extension of word of mouth, and it's out of their hands.
Okay.
Well, part of what's going on here is that Google and Facebook and these places are smart. I'm familiar with this business, and they have been there a long time.
Yeah.
And so,
well, they did change owners.
It will eventually, the internet eventually picks it up and finds it. But we're looking at like 2 decades, that this business has been there. And, so Google did eventually pick it up. So I bet you that Yelp page was generated by Yelp.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. They didn't do that.
Let's put some context now around being found. So one of the things I did after I read about your interview is I went and used a tool called Google's Keyword Planner. This tool, and I have an image of it online right now, but I'm going to describe it anyways. So Google Keyword Planner will let me put in keywords. It'll let me pick an area, and then it'll tell me how many searches there are. So what does that mean? So that it's how many times are people searching that term. And so this kind of would tie together the opportunity for someone like this sushi place to see if there's even enough interest to be found, right? Is it 5 people looking for food or sushi, or is it thousands of people looking for food or sushi online? Is it important to be found or not? And so this Google Keyword Planner will help you do that. Now, what you do is you guys just go in. We'll do a tutorial somewhere else, but you'll just go into Google AdWords, you go to the Keyword Planner, you put in your keywords, you hit search. For Shasta County, the term food near me has anywhere from 13,000 to almost 20,000 searches a month, right? So how nice would it be if you're a restaurant to being found even some of those times?
That's a lot of hungry people with money.
Yeah. And this is people who are looking for food. In this tool, I've narrowed it down to Shasta County, so this is really specific. These are people, they might be in their car, right? They might be leaving the house. They might be at work going, where's food near me, right? They might be in the hotel. And so the key is, yeah, you can push out advertising, and you probably should in some cases, but you got to ask yourself, are you being found for the people who are looking specifically for you for some reason or your service? And do you even know how much opportunity there is to be found? And I think this has gone up since the last time we looked. We tracked this word. So this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, food near me is definitely something that we cover on a regular basis because it is so important. You know, it's not just the sushi restaurant. It's restaurants in general have a very thin profit margin.
Yeah.
By the nature of what they do.
But if regular listeners remember, I did talk to Cinder's Wood-Fired Pizza a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, they had very different things to say. They are also kind of hard to find in a physical sense.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're all over the internet. They put a great deal of effort into that.
Right. They have the reverse approach.
Exactly.
Okay, so what I'm going to want to get into then is how do you put the monsters to work? We'll probably talk about a little bit of this segment, a little bit of the next segment. But by monsters, I mean Bing. I mean Google. Those two monsters, and there's Yelp, there's a bunch, but particularly those two monsters are search engines. They have the search traffic. Google has by far the most, but Bing has everybody else who's not searching on Google. And what they've done is they've created the power of listings. Essentially, those two have said, look, local businesses, we want to help you get your information online the way people want to find it. You know, so one of the things I've done to explain this is if you've ever, and I've put it on my screen in case anybody's watching, if you've ever Googled a business and you notice on the right side of your search results, you'll see this big box pop up, and it'll have pictures of the business. It'll have the hours the business is open. It'll have directions. You can even sometimes call the business. Well, that's one of the directories called Google My Business. And so Google wants you to fill out this information. It wants you to use this. Heck, it's using up half of the search results page to display you. So how do you put that to work for you? How do you get in there and use that? And do you even need, or do you even know how to? Do you even know you can? So we're going to talk about that in the next segment. Thank you so much for listening to Being Found. We're about ready to go to break, and we'll be right back. Thanks.
Analog living in a digital world. Every week on Boomer Tech Radio, we offer
And we're back.
All right. Now we're on, what do we want to call this? This is the
bonus
show. Yeah, the bonus material, the show behind the show.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Now's when it gets interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Anything
right.
like that.
Anything. We just went from PG to PG-13.
We can say whatever we want.
Within reason.
Within reason. Yeah, so
Go ahead.
well, I was going to ask you right before break, both you guys, is it generally the experience you have that when you talk to a business, they know all about Google My Business and Bing Places and they're on top of it? Or is your experience they tend to, oh yeah, maybe I'm in there, but I don't really know how to run it, or I don't know what power it has? I mean, which side of the fence do you think most businesses are in?
Probably the second in my experience, but I've been surprised a number of times, of course, with Cinders, with From the Hearth, with a couple of other people. You know, people can be surprisingly savvy and really, you know, just be on top of it. But I do think the majority of people I've talked to are, you know, that they really don't want to think about it.
Right. I agree. By and large, people are totally and completely ignorant to the internet and what their business could be doing. And that is no insult because,
yeah,
you know,
well, they're
one
doing
man
their own thing.
one person can only do so much.
Well, I mean, these sushi people said, we really just want to make good food.
Right.
You know,
and they're focused
Godspeed
on
to you. It's,
right. They're focused on their thing, you know, and
Yeah.
so they, without somebody coming to them and really sort of holding their hand for a couple seconds to help explain it to them, you know, it can seem very daunting, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, we're hand holding.
We're hand holding. Oh no, I'm a terrible hand holder. And that's what I want to get back into when we go to the next segment. Is I want to talk about action steps. But before we do that, you know, I want to try to underline all three of our perspectives on what Google My Business is and how it works and what it does. And so you guys will each get have your perspective of that a little bit. But also, I think we got to remind business owners how often they probably use it, right? Isn't that funny? I'm the same way. I'll use my phone and I'll Google the hours of a business, but I may not make sure that my hours of my business are right on Google My Business directory, right? So I think as a business, we have like two minds. One mind is we're used to using it in our own world, but we don't think about the impact and the power and making it available so our customers can use it. Do you guys notice that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's part of, I mean, it's selective focus. When we're trying to find the hours, that's all we care about. When we're trying to optimize our business and make sure that we're being found, we've got a million things. I mean, not a million, but literally probably hundreds of things to think about.
Right.
20
and
seconds.
hours are one of them. Oh.
Hours. Call 888-2GI-PATH or go to www.gipath.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Being Found Show. Used to be the Digital Revolution Show, but we have evolved our focus. In the last segment, we were talking about one of Sean's interviews, which I think in that interview, Sean came up against a common challenge for businesses is they have thin margins and advertising or marketing is risky, and probably any time they've tried it, it cost a fortune and it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
And so what we want to try to do in this segment is unpack or uncomplicate a couple steps that have a lot of power in being found by your customers when they're looking for you. And one of the things we brought up is Google My Business. Now, Chauncey, can you describe what Google My Business is, and and how you see it being used with your clients?
No. Yes,
Okay.
I can.
We'll move on to Jared.
Yes, of course I can. First of all, Google My Business, just to help people understand, is basically, when you create an account in Google, you have your Google account. When you create a Google My Business, it's like creating an entity, an account for your business. It's like a hub. You have access to a lot of tools at that point. And so one of the major tools that you have access to is verifying your location and who you are. This causes Google to trust you and therefore have you show up in search, specifically in the map pack, which is, of course, very important for local searches and anytime you're searching for, well, we were talking about near me earlier, you're more apt to show up for those searches.
And when you show up, if you have signed up for Google My Business and you filled out the information, when you show up on a mobile device, you actually take up the whole screen. The other results on the search results are actually below you. So essentially, if you're in Google My Business and 53% or 51% of people are Googling while driving with their phone, then you essentially have a website created by Google displaying for those people. Your directory essentially is dominating, your listing is dominating that whole screen and acting as directory and giving that user the information that Google knows they're most likely looking for. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, and it does functionality. It's not just their name on the screen and their address or whatever. If they're on their phone, they click once and they're calling you. Which is very powerful.
And there's reviews and a click a map and a find directions. It's all right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, in technical search engine speak, it also kicks all your competitors below the fold.
Right. You are dominating the
screen,
attention when they're on their phone.
Yeah. So
at that moment.
So, it's to me, this is one of those times when from the tech side, from our geeky side, this is so obvious that it's like one of the first things we ever do when we start working with a client, right? But from the client side, I don't know that it's always really obvious how important this is. So I feel like if marketing companies or marketing geeks are listening to us, are going, why are they talking about this? This is like so simple. This is obvious. This is the basic thing you do. But I don't find that businesses are aware of how powerful this first step is in being found by putting these monsters to work, helping you be found.
Well, I've found talking to people that most people, don't know it's called Google My Business. They know about that little thing with all of your information that pops up when you search for people, but they don't know what it's called. They don't know that it's a program you do, and B, they think it's something Google automatically generates. They don't know that it's something you go and set up. So, I mean, that in itself is crucial information.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's free, right?
It takes like 10 minutes. It's
Yeah.
The takeaway for, other marketers who might be listening to this going, duh, the takeaway is that how you communicate it to the businesses that you're trying to say how important it is. And one way is to tell them that Google does not trust you without it. Yeah. If you don't verify that, Google doesn't trust you.
Yeah, it's in this odd position of being a staple that people outside the web marketing world, are 50-50 on even knowing it's a thing.
Mm-hmm. If anybody's searching for something that could possibly be associated with a business, even on a national level, Google wants to verify that they know where you're at and how to get a hold of you, and therefore they trust you.
All right, so let me get into action steps. Okay, so if you're watching online, we've got the website for Google My Business online. You can just Google My Business and Bing places, and you can go to both those places. Here's what I want you to do. Here's your action steps. Set your Google My Business up. Go in. It's free. Start now. Here's what Google says. Take charge of what people see when they do a local search. Again, local search for your business. Google My Business gives you the tools to update your listing and engage with customers from your phone, tablet, and computer. It's all free. That's what Google says. So go set them up. If you've already got it set up, then fill it all out. You can put images, your address, your times you work, you're open, all those kind of things. So if you've already got it filled out, then fill out the whole thing. Your other action step is save it to a bookmark and go in and look. There's reporting. There's how many people call you from this, because you can click to call. There's how many people view it. How many times is it seen? There's all kinds of great insights. So fill out your profile and log in and look at it now. But I do want to talk about some mistakes to avoid. So those are the action steps. Here's mistakes to avoid. Don't try to set it up all at once. Just start. Start filling out the best you can. Keep going. I think, at least for me, sometimes I get overwhelmed with everything that has to be done, and I'll look at all the fields I got to fill out, and I got to go find images, and I got to get my pictures of the front of my store, and I got to do all this stuff. And so just start. And every week or every month, do a little bit more and make it better. Don't try to do it all at once. What about you guys? Any mistakes or action steps that you think business should take?
Don't get heavy-handed with the categories. Only select the categories that you actually apply to.
Oh yeah. Why?
Well, because if with Google, it's all about trust factor. So if they trust your transparency, so if you're doing things that ends up making Google question what you're doing, Google is going to block you until that's taken care of.
Oh, interesting.
So it might work out great for you for 45 minutes. But after that, you're basically going to be not trusted. And it's just like life in general, It takes a lifetime to build a good reputation and about 5 seconds to ruin it. So, you might as well constantly work on a good reputation.
Google is a harsh master. So.
Yeah, it really can be. If you're not going to trick Google for very long, so just don't. Here's the other thing. One last mistake then is don't leave this to somebody else to worry about. I get it. You don't want to deal with the internet marketing. It's all too much. But being found is just like all the other departments in your business. You do have to be able to check in. You have to be able to see what's going on. And so don't make the mistake of ignoring this. If you've hired a web team or SEO experts or advertising company, ask them to show you or Google your own business and see if the information's right. If you haven't hired somebody, Google your name, see if the information's right, and then follow Google's steps to take care of it or contact a company that can help you. We do that kind of thing. You can always contact Joe's Web Geeks. But there's tons of us out there. So I
got one more thing before you move on that people shouldn't do. Don't put down that you're open 24 hours if you're not open 24 hours. Put down the hours that you're going to answer the phone.
Yeah, why do people put 24 hours? What do you think the benefit of that, they assume the benefit is?
Wishful thinking. They think they're going to be available all that time, but then life steps in, as it always does, and puts you in your place. And your place is that you have responsibilities outside of that.
Right, and then what happens is people end up coming to your business, and you're not there, and now they don't trust you, right?
I mean, I think in the eyes of consumers, Google My Business is kind of sacred. Like, if you can't trust the little hour thing, what can you trust, You're
getting all spiritual on that one.
Well,
the cult of Google. All right, hey guys, we're coming up to the end of this segment. You are listening to Being Found. You can also hang out online and watch the show, and you can hear all kinds of bonus material and probably more PG-13 talk during the commercials because the show keeps running. So thanks for listening, and we will be right back.
I'm Dr. Nancy Sutton Pierce, the host of the Conscious Living Show.
I wasn't actually trying to make a joke there. My point was that
But no, I think
people
you're right.
do trust that, and they're miffed when it's not right.
Oh yeah, people and they should, because
well, because they
I've
think it's
gone to
generated by
businesses.
Google. That's
Right.
what they think. So
Yeah.
So this is funny. My sister just text. Now we don't even get commercial breaks from Joe's voice. He's live on commercials too. I have a harsh family.
You can feel the love in that one.
You can feel the love. All right. Well, do you guys think we covered putting the monsters to work enough to move on? In segments?
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to put together a list of the monsters and ways that they can help you, because I think an interesting one to cover, and I don't think I'm really ready to discuss it in any detail, but ways that monsters like Amazon can help your online business, because there's a lot of other monsters, and
that's a very deep topic in comparison with Google My Business, which is fill out some fields.
Oh no, but but there's a lot of monsters that pertain to different aspects, and how can you utilize these things?
And there's a lot more to being found than being found on Google, right? Google's a place to start, but there's being found on Amazon. There's it's endless, right?
Oh yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you sell products, it's probably good to figure out where you stand with regards to Amazon. Are you selling on Amazon, or are you trying to compete, or what?
Yeah, and everybody knows it's better to sell from your own site than it is from a third-party site, because you have fees and so on and so forth. But
it's Amazon.
If that third party is beating you out in search, maybe you should be in there too.
Yeah.
And so I guess my point was, we should come up with a resource of what those monsters are. So like we could say the local monsters, and have a resource of the local monsters,
All right. So when we come back on to radio show, when we leave the bonus PG-13 room, I want to come back on and talk about why traffic isn't enough, Chauncey.
All right, we have 20 seconds.
I'm calling this segment Chauncey Says.
That's creative.
Yeah. I'm not very creative.
Deeper with featured guests and listener call-ins. Mondays are rough, but now your overworked brain has a chance for some sweet relief with Radio Wasteland.
Radio Wasteland, Mondays at 6 on KCNR.
All right. You are listening to Being Found. Welcome back to Being Found. You can follow along on the show at beingfound.com. We're streaming live. We're streaming my desktop and all the audio, and you get to hear in between the commercials, which is a good or bad thing. I don't know yet. Last segments we were talking about being found by the monsters. During the break we were all talking, and it came up that there's a lot more opportunities to being found. There's being found on Amazon and Yelp and all those kind of places, and we're going to talk about all that in upcoming shows. However, in this segment, I call this segment Chauncey Says, and I need some major music like thunder and lightning. Chauncey Says.
Can't we call it like Chauncey's 15 minutes of fame or something?
Yeah, but I think you're more like 22 minutes of fame now.
Well, I mean, we got until the commercial break.
Yeah. All right, so
commercial break.
Chauncey Says, and Chauncey says traffic isn't enough. What in the world are you talking about?
Well, it's not necessarily. Yeah, traffic isn't enough. So in our past segments, we've talked about keywords and getting traffic there, but really this is about quality of traffic. People. Are all about, well, how many people are coming to your site, and how many people and how many people and how many followers do you have? That is really kind of ultimately irrelevant. What is relevant is, are the people who are trying to find you finding you? And are they converting? So, I mean, I could have 100 people hit my site an hour from now and one person buy. Or I could have 15 people hit my site an hour from now and have 7 people buy. which one are you going to pick?
The second scenario is better.
It was rhetorical,
for,
Sean.
for the listeners. Okay.
That was rhetorical. And so really there's a quality of traffic. You can channel people to your site in several nefarious ways and in a lot of accidental ways. People accidentally channel the wrong traffic to their site.
Mm-hmm.
And in Google, that's one reason why we see a high bounce rate.
Yeah, it's not just insignificant to bring in the wrong people. It's actively hurtful in many cases.
It is actively hurtful in many cases.
Okay, so let's kind of unpack this for a second, because I'm a business owner. First off, why is it hurtful to bring the wrong traffic to my site?
Well, Google is tracking the traffic that comes to your site.
Okay.
And if somebody comes to your site and bounces, which means that they hit the back button,
mm-hmm.
then Google basically says, well, that wasn't valuable for them.
So Google sees that.
Yeah.
Google sees that. Google sees that and says, wait a minute, the people that are coming to your site don't like it, so they're leaving.
Right. And if more and more people do that, then Google starts to label your site as a site that people do not like.
Okay. So now, real quick, as a business owner, I start to wonder, how in the world can I even control something like that? And how in the world can I even see if that's happening? So let's start with, how can we see if that's happening? As a business owner, what can they do to find out if people are bouncing or don't like the site? What do they do?
Well, the easiest way to do is Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Is definitely the easiest. And but I mean, Google Analytics itself can be very daunting of a program.
Yeah.
It has everything.
It took me a long time to figure out even which way is up. It's like an airplane dashboard, kind of.
Right. And so what you do is you have somebody, or you research it and you find it once, and then what do you do once you found it? You bookmark it.
Okay, so you go into Google or you go into Google Analytics, and you're going to look for that one number, which is probably going to show up at the dashboard as soon as you log in, which is your bounce rate.
Sure.
What's a good bounce rate and about a bad bounce rate? How do I even know if what I'm looking at? And what is a bounce rate? Is it going to be a percentage, whatever? Now I know the answers to these questions, but I'm asking them because not only do I do this for a living, but I'm a business owner, and these are things that I care about or would care about. So what am I looking at?
It's a percentage.
Okay.
It's a percentage, and it's a percentage for a time frame. You can change that time frame, but we tend to just go with the default time frame so that we can understand things as they change. And people have to remember that the internet is a fickle place, because here we are where people who can now get anything that we want, and I don't mean material things, but any information that we want, we can now pretty much find on the internet. Even if I'm looking for an answer and I don't like that answer, I want to look up an answer that I like, even if it's totally wrong, I'll probably find that too. So you can pretty much find anything that you want on the internet. So that's prefacing the fact that a 50% bounce rate is acceptable. If you have a 50% bounce rate, that's not absolutely terrible. Should you try to make it better? Absolutely. You should always try to make it better. The better quality of traffic, the better you're doing. Better. But if you have a 50% bounce rate, that is somewhat realistic for this fickle internet world.
Yeah, and it depends on your industry,
Of course. Yeah, I'm just picking a broad term number,
Yeah.
The more specific your industry is, then the lower your bounce rate will be, because you're hopefully getting your niche market in there.
Exactly.
I'm sure you have all these notes and we're prepared to take a certain path, and I'm ruining your segment just like I ruined Sean's. But let's say
I put in these charts and this standing thing, man.
Yeah. So let's say that I'm a business owner. I went into my Google Analytics, and if you don't know how to do that, Google it. Google how to get into your Google Analytics, or ask your web team. I've gone in there and I've seen that I have a 50% bounce rate. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm not going to panic. But let's say I go in and I see I have an 80 or 90% bounce rate, which means 80 to 90% of the people don't like my website or don't like the content or the traffic is not the right traffic. What do they do? And when I ask that, Chauncey, not what do they do in the geek fashion of, log in and change your meta and titles and that kind of stuff. How do they look at this? How do they communicate to someone who can help them fix it? Or who do they communicate to? What would a business do if they found out they've got a high bounce rate, which means it's bad traffic?
Well, I would say, first of all, if you have a bounce rate that high, the first thing you need to look at is your page speed. But so that's not necessarily a traffic thing. Chances are, if your bounce rate is that high, it's because your website is so slow that people are just out. They're not having anything to do with it.
Now, real quick, Chauncey, one of the things I did is if you're watching online, you'll see that I went to Page Speed Insights, which is a tool from Google that'll let you test your page speed because it's so important. And I just got to point out that one of my businesses, Cloudwise Academy, has a poor page speed, so my team needs to fix that. But you could check it out and you can see. You just basically put in your URL, your domain, your website address, click Analyze, and it's going to tell you how well your page is doing in Google's eyes. And if you look below that, there's these little blue links. It'll tell you exactly how to fix it so you can share that with your web team. Okay, so what else, Chauncey?
So let's say that your bounce rate is bad because of traffic. You have to analyze why exactly is it bad. And if you can't really do that yourself, you need to talk to your web team. Mm-hmm. And the words you need to throw in there are conversion. People are hitting my site, but they're leaving. So let's say it's not speed. Let's take speed out of the equation, although we know in those numbers that speed is our number one culprit. And speed is our number one culprit for bounce rate in general. Take care of your speed first. But if it comes down to the traffic, we need to ask ourselves, why are they bouncing? Why are they bouncing? And there's one of two reasons normally. One reason would be that they don't like what they see. They think your website looks spammy, it looks shady, it looks old, something like that. Or two, your website is optimized accidentally for terms that is having people show up and finding something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, the wrong traffic.
The wrong traffic, yeah.
So what questions am I to ask my web team to get a hold of what's happening? What would we ask?
We would say, what terms are first of all, I would ask my web team. So when you go to the site, I would ask my web team, what terms am I optimized for and why am I getting all this bounce rate? And first off, if your web team says, what's bounce rate? You should probably get a new web team. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, they are going to tell you that it's speed. And then you're going to deal with that. And then the next thing that you're going to do is verify what terms you're optimized for. One example that I use on a regular basis, if you're a listener to the show, you probably find it boring, and I'm going to say it again, is carpet cleaner. If I optimize my page for carpet cleaner, 50% of those people who land on my site are looking for somebody physically to clean my carpet. And the other 50% are looking for a machine to clean my carpet. So 50% of those people immediately are going to bounce because they are not going to be happy with what they saw.
Right. Kind of a win term in terms of traffic.
It is. Use that as a secondary term on a page that better explains what it's about.
Okay, so we're going to come up to the end of this segment. So the takeaways are traffic isn't enough. You can't just look at that. And two action steps to take it. One is speed's probably going to be part of the problem. And you can go to Google's page speed test. Just Google it. And you can find out what Google thinks about your site. So just do that. I really recommend you go do that. That's one of the biggest problems we see with websites. But the other one is that you may have the wrong kind of content, or you need to ask your the next action step is to ask your web team what you're optimized for. Okay, so you're listening to the Being Found show. We are going to go to break, but we're going to be right back, and I've got some news to talk about and some tools to go over with you. So come on back. Thanks for listening.
If you got no place to go when you're feeling down, if you're all alone.
KCNR, Shasta, Redding.
News is up.
And we're back.
All right, we're back behind the scenes. I'm going to call this behind the scenes. So one of the things behind the scenes, we may not want to go back in with music because I think it cuts out when I start talking, or Jared needs to play it low volume instead of high volume and just kind of shut it off as soon as I'm coming in.
Okay, whatever.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
So
I just
professional, Jared.
yeah.
Jared making his professional debut on the radio show. Yeah, whatever, Joe.
Whatever.
Well, I was trying to fade it out, not just abruptly cut it. You know.
Well, I think you can fade out, but we might want to turn down the volume of it as we come in. I have a feeling, I'm not sure, maybe our listeners can let us know, but I think as we come back in, it cuts out. So it cuts in and out on the radio play. So, but I don't know. You do whatever you want, Jared. You don't listen to me anyways. You're the boss.
Okay.
All right.
Good
Yeah. So when we come back, I want to talk about some news in the world of being found, and I want to go over a couple tools. They're web page graders, and I kind of want to go over how businesses can use web page graders to understand what's going on. Just to find out where they stand and have reasonable discussions with their web team or their vendors or whatever it is. So we're going to try to get both of those done in the next two segments before a guest comes on.
I like them because they're accessible, and I'm a writer who doesn't understand a lot of development stuff on a nitty-gritty level. So I like being able to see, A, B, C, whatever.
Well, that's really a prime example of what we're after, because the nature of the work that you do, you need to understand some of this stuff, but you don't necessarily need to understand how to do it.
Right.
You just need to understand if it's been done. And that's really what we're trying to teach businesses, is how to learn if it's been done. I don't expect a business to go out and do all of this stuff themselves, although getting started, they totally can. But hopefully there's going to come a point where they are successful and get somebody else to do it.
I think it's somewhat common for little startups to handle this stuff themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
There is definitely a point where you just don't have time and you need to focus on your core competence.
Right.
As I say.
Well, and as being the business owner who's responsible for paying the bills and all that, I need to be able to check on you guys, right? If I hire an outside team, I need to be able to go, gosh, is it working? And I need to be able to look quick, and I need to see, okay, it's not working, or gosh, I'm getting a 50 out of 100 on this, and I may not know how to fix it, which most times I do, but let's say I don't. I can say to my web developer, hey, I'm getting a 50 out of 100 on this. Why?
Totally. Yeah, and Joe can just check it and report on it and then get mad at people, and it all takes 5 minutes between his golf game and his shiatsu massage.
It takes less than 5 minutes. I can get mad in 2.5 seconds. You know what though? Here's for the behind the scenes part of the show. I am amazed at how much I have to keep an eye on everything. There are so many factors that when our team's working on one thing, something else might be falling apart or slowing down. This really is running a successful being found campaign is a lot like operating really complicated machinery. One thing slows down, wears out. Yeah, it's crazy.
For years, web developers would always go, well, websites don't break themselves. What happened here?
Yeah.
But now that it's so integrated with so many other things, as soon as one other thing updates, maybe your setup did break itself. We got 20 seconds,
20 seconds
until we're live.
Well, we are live. You mean live on the radio?
In a number of different states, from tourist havens all the way to Mexico City. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The views and opinions of shows on KCNR are those of the hosts, guests, and callers only, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff, management, or advertisers of KCNR Radio.
All right, welcome back to the Being Found show. You know, in this show, we're starting something that it's truly different. And as far as I know, we're the only show doing this kind of thing. We're essentially running a radio show. We're live, and at the same time, we're streaming our screen out to YouTube, and next week we'll be streaming out to more services. You know, there are a lot of regular hosts that do regular talk shows and things like that I see doing this. I don't see any marketing shows streaming live in both venues, but also most marketing shows or online or tech shows or anything like that you're listening to are podcasts where they're edited and you know, they're happening only online. So bear with us. We're pretty excited about this. We're trying to bring as much information as we can using all the wonderful tools of the internet that we can. So hope you're enjoying it. You can follow along with the show and see our screens at beingfound.com. It's playing right there through YouTube Live. And then welcome back. Oh, and if you're listening online, you get behind the scenes talk where we try to be still PG-13, at least staying in the PG. All right. So here we are. We're back. And let's continue, or let's replay what we were talking about behind the scenes. One of the things we were talking about was as a business owner, what we really need to be able to do is we need to see how well our online presence doing. And so what I call this is this segment is my tools segment. It's my pull the tools out of the bag of tricks. And what we're going to do here is we expose tools that the pros use. But also these tools the pros use can be used by business owners and business leaders to check in and see how well your online presence is doing. And it can be as simple as putting your domain into the search box and hitting analyze, and you're going to get a score. For instance, right now I used something called website.grader.com. And I'm looking at our beingfound.com, and it's on screen right now. But one of the things that you'll notice if you are looking is that I get a 76 out of 100. So right off the bat, I know that overall my grade is a 76 out of 100. So I can now go look and see what's going on. Why am I not at 100? Sean, you use these kind of tools as a content writer, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mainly use Moz's Page Grader for individual pages that I write because it's a little more content focused, and it gives you a grade and it gives you a number of very nice steps, like you need to use this keyword more or you need to use this keyword less sometimes, and it's just very easy to deal with as a writer. You know, it just tells you, hey, shuffle these words around a little. And
as a business, I could use the same tool, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this first tool, the website.grader.com, it's used, or it's built by HubSpot, which is a CRM. You do have to put in your email address, but other than that, it's totally free. I'm sure HubSpot will market to you forever after this. And it's really neat. You put it in, and I can see right now that I get a 21 out of 30 for performance. My mobile is 30 out of 30, which means that the site is mobile friendly. My SEO. What's that, Chauncey?
If you get it all the way across, it means you win the internet. You win
the
internet.
Yeah.
What's your SEO?
15 out of 30. We got to work on that. Yeah.
Mm.
You know, it's funny. One of the commitments to doing our show online and share the screen is that I'm going to expose the truth of what's going on in my world. So, you know,
the kids have no shoes, man.
Yeah. So we're going to have to fix this stuff. But so I got a 15 out of 30 and I got a 10 out of 10 on security. Now, what's really cool about this tool is after that, I can scroll down and very easily see, for instance, I can see my page speed is 1.2 seconds. And this tool says, great, nice work. But when I look at page size, which is how big is my page, it says, whoa, your pages are a little too big, which means I got too much code or I'm doing too much stuff. But even if I don't know what that means, I can now share this with my web team. And I can say, hey, guys, why is my page size too big? And, hey, why does that even matter to me, right? So just by putting in my website address and click Analyze, I now can have a reasonably educated discussion with my web team. And I can ask them, why are these things happening, right?
Absolutely.
Now, how often does this happen in our world? Like, Chauncey, when's the last time one of your clients used one of these tools and called you and had a discussion with you about what he saw or what she saw?
Oh, you know, I maybe have over the years had like 3 clients that were that involved.
Yeah. But now flip on the other side, and let's say that you're a supplier for a company of some kind of widget. And I wonder how many times the company you supply would call you and ask why prices went up, or why are you late on delivery, right? They would ask those things because why? Well, because they can see the numbers. They can see in their accounting that deliveries are taking longer, or they're costing more, or delivery rates went up, or whatever. They can see that, and so they know to ask about it. Well, that's what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to expose these tools in this segment so that businesses can use them to see some numbers to start asking questions, start asking why is this happening?
Yeah, it's hard to look at it just from a pure money angle and say, hey, I should be getting this much money from marketing or this many leads from marketing, because it's very unpredictable. So instead you have to look at the metrics that are inherent to this world, you know, bounce rate, speed, all that kind of thing.
And it doesn't have to be combative. You know, it's not necessarily use these tools so that you can call out your SEO company. It's just like anything else. You know, if you sell widgets, you know your inventory, you know your numbers, because that's good business. You know, and so you should have some sort of understanding of your numbers when it comes to advertising online, because that's just good business.
Because you pay for it.
And they matter. Yeah. So these two, I've got 2 tools. If you're looking at the website, you can see them, but let me explain what they are. You've got websitegrader.com, website.grader.com, and then the other one is called Nibbler. So you can go to nibbler.silktide.com and put in your information, and it'll show you. Now, I want to get into action steps. Okay, so what do you do? Well, first off, check your site. There's no reason every business isn't using these tools to check how their website's doing. So just do it. Check. Show it to your marketing team. Ask them questions about it. Even if you don't make any decisions, do anything, just make this something you do. And like you said, Chauncey, one of the action steps is don't beat up your web team, because I'm telling you, we work hard and we can't hit every single factor. So instead of beating up your marketing team, work on priorities together. You know, is it the mobile part that's slowing you down? Is it the speed? Do you not have good content? Whatever it is that's keeping you from being found and keeping you with bad numbers, prioritize them. And then test your site again and see how you did. You know, those are your actions. That's not too hard, right? And that's what you already do as a business. So take those steps. And then Jared's bossing me around, so I've just got 30 seconds. Mistakes to avoid: don't do it all at once. And just because things are bad, don't think you need a new website. You don't need a new website every time there's a problem. And another mistake to avoid is doing nothing. You can't do nothing. At least, you know, search, find out how you're doing, and then prioritize. Okay, so you've been listening to Being Found. We'll be right back after the break, or you can listen to Behind the Scenes Talk if you're listening online. Talk to you soon.
Analog living in a digital world. Every week on Boomer Tech Radio, we
And we're back.
All right. So how do you guys feel like this is going?
Oh, I think it's going great. I think it's a necessity. I also think it fulfills what we're telling people to do.
Yeah.
In order to be found, you need to be on multiple channels and utilizing them. And we know that as a radio show or as a podcast that we are available, but we do know that video and video streaming is one of those areas that is important to our industry, and therefore it's only natural that we pursue that harder because it's important to our industry. So we are doing what we're telling our audience to do.
Yeah, and that's what Andrea said. Andrea said she's so glad we're doing this because we're taking our own advice.
Andrea copies me a lot. It's kind of embarrassing, but whatever.
Yeah, she does.
I realize just, occasionally on the show in flashes that our advice is hard sometimes. That may not even be the most profound thing to say, but really don't worry about it too much just because it is difficult. I mean, worry about what we're doing, do what we're saying, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's to get it all right.
I think you're right. I think that's the shift that business have to make. See, I was around before the internet was part of advertising or marketing or being found. And at that time, what you did is you came up with an ad, a commercial. You had something done, and then you shared it to the world. And so still, I think a lot of businesses are in that time frame where, well, I just need to focus on the website or something on the internet, some video, some cartoon, something, and then I'll put it out there and then I'm done. Well, no. Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
That comes up a lot. I think we've heard a couple of times from prospective clients, how long will this website last me?
Yeah.
For a new one. And, on the face of it, that's a reasonable question because it does make sense that you'd want to update your site occasionally. But
20 seconds.
They sometimes mean, how long can I ignore it for?
Yeah, right. Jared is superb at picking music. It's amazing. You're listening to Being Found. You can follow along online. Go to beingfound.com. We're sharing all kinds of images, and you're seeing the steps it takes to do things. We also have behind-the-scenes show going on during commercial breaks, so it's really cool to watch there. And we do have our guest coming up, the cartoon godfather. What's it? Vince Palco, the godfather of cartoon marketing. He's going to be coming on in the next segment.
I'm not going to wake up tomorrow morning with a cartoon horse head in my bed, am I?
Yeah, sleep with the fishes. So there's always a lot of new stuff going on, and I think sometimes it's hard for businesses to keep up with it all. So one of the things we try to do in this show is find those important new things that you need to know about.
We keep up for you.
We keep up for you. Or we Google it.
Well, that's what I mean.
Totally.
Keeping it is.
Yeah. So here's what's new. There's Google has come out with something called Google Posts. Now, Google Post is new to businesses, but it isn't new to Google. Actually, Google Post was something used during the elections. And essentially what it was is Google will allow you to post content directly to your Google My Business, and those posts will show up in Google search results and map results. So what does that mean? Well, we're used to writing blog posts or pages and waiting for Google to find them. Now there are ways that we can help Google find them, but essentially what this does is this allows you to tell Google, hey, this post I'm writing through your platform, please share it. Now there's another really cool thing with this, and that is you can actually put calls to action. So those of you that are able to watch online, you can see the picture I'm showing you. For everybody else, I'm going to explain it. Essentially, if you're either on a mobile device or a desktop, you're probably used to seeing this thing we're talking about, Google My Business. That's where that's where when you're looking for a business or a product, you'll see Google's version show up. And you'll be able to look at the times the business is open, etc. But now in that same thing is a post. And that post can have a link to say buy or to learn more. Let's say that maybe you've got a special going on where, let's say you're a karate class and you've got a special class for kids only for 2 days. You can write that post. You can put it in here and tell people to learn more, and they'll follow right over. So this is so new that I'm personally having a hard time finding out how much impact it's going to have, how well posts will be found. I know we're doing a lot of research and we're trying it out. I assume it's going to do well. Do you know anything more about Google Posts, Chauncey or Sean?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So I actually just sent you a link that you can share with the viewing audience of a few things that you can do. When you post, it basically it's adding to what's called the knowledge graph. So in Google My Business earlier, you were talking about how it shows up on the right hand side, and it's the knowledge graph.
Right.
You have a nice picture, you have your information, a click to call, you got some directions. Underneath that is going to show up these posts. And when you create a post, it'll last for 7 days. And so it's kind of wanting you to post on the reg, get it in there. And if you add an event, it'll last until the event happens.
Really?
Yeah, and they're really looking for you to be sharing your promotions and your updates, and they're looking for you to actually push your business. There's so many aspects of the internet where people feel, I need to be sneaky about this. Social media is a prime example. Okay, well, we need to sell ourselves without totally selling ourselves. The kind of beauty of these Google posts is
that's what they're for.
You're supposed to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And you get to go back to doing what you do best and saying what you offer and why it's good for your constituents and so on and so forth. And it will show up right there.
It seems like in order to get utility out of this does require a business to be constantly producing content and to be constantly providing updates.
Content implies something more. It implies a level of entertainment. It implies a level of conversion. It implies so much more. I think these posts are really made more for the business guy to go in there and just write it up. Hey, we're offering this and so on and so forth, and we can help you. So I think
the type of thing that might even be a Facebook post.
Right. I think it's a little more rudimentary. It's a little more your average Joe can go in there and let's say once a week, so for
why is it always your average Joe? Why is it always your average Joe?
You're an
Why not your average
Joe?
Yeah, I think your average Chance could get in there and and he could, let's say here's a great strategy for somebody to use in this situation. And that's if you don't use events. It sounds to me like events are a great strategy in this situation because they will stay up until they're done. So you can get more than a week out of one. Mm-hmm. But a great strategy would be My Business is going to offer a special once a week.
Yeah, and just post it.
I'm going to get in there, and as an SEO, I wish businesses did this more often. I wish businesses called me up in once a week and said, "Here's our special, talk about it." And I would say, "Okay, great. We got something to push. We got something to run with. We got something to share. We got something." And so I think that would be a great strategy for this here. It would remind you to do it on the weekly. It would give you something to talk about, something to share across your social media. and you'd always be updated.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I want to also, before this segment's over, I want to get into free stuff. So, again, getting into that whole concept of advertising is expensive and this whole being found's expensive. It's not free to be found. It is work, but it doesn't have to cost a lot. Just spend little bits. I call it limited risk marketing. You just spend a little bit and keep getting better and better. But having said all that, there are free things out there. And so one of those free things. What's that?
Zero risk marketing, as it were.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that, but yeah, good point. So Google AdWords is a great way to be found. So Google AdWords is those paid ads that show up at the top of results. You can actually pick a keyword, build an ad, and you can try to be found. You can pay to be found. And so Google wants you to try it out. And so there'll oftentimes be free offers. And right now, if you're looking at our screen, you can see the page, but you can also Google this. Google AdWords has a $75 ad credit if you spend $25. So essentially, you can test $100 worth of Google Ads. Now, how does that work? Well, what you do is you pay for the click. So someone clicking to your website or clicking to your offer. And so, clicks can cost anywhere from pennies to hundreds of dollars. It depends on what's being sold and how much competition there is. But typically, you can get a click for 50 cents, $1, $2, $3, somewhere in that range. So that's essentially, that could be 100 to 50 people coming to your site. And $75 of that was free. Another one that is free is Bing. So what Bing likes to say is, if you're not using Google, you're using Bing. Basically, they say
their slogan?
it kind of is. Look, it
You gotta be
says
realistic, I guess.
this is literally on Bing's page. It says Bing ads can connect you with millions of searchers not using Google. That's what Bing says. So that is funny.
It is growing. So we are making fun of it, but it is growing.
Yeah, I think it's up to 30%.
It is.
Yeah. So, but that is funny. So, again, 30% of people out there are looking on Bing. Bing's trying to help you be found also. And so Bing also offers $100 when you spend $25. So again, that's paying per click. So no matter how many times people see your ad, that doesn't cost you. It doesn't cost you until they take an action. Now, the reason that's so valuable is it's free. But on top of that, you typically make a promise in an ad. That's what an ad is, really. An ad's a promise. So you might say, the best place to buy shoes for tall people. And if they clicked on that ad, that means that they're looking for shoes for tall people. And so at least you got the right kind of traffic. Now, if they don't like your website or they move on or they don't call you, now you have some messaging problems or something else is going on. Maybe you didn't answer your phone or maybe you run the ads at the wrong time. But the point is, for free and cheap, you can start getting the right kind of traffic to your site. So that's my free
and
stuff.
How often do you get the right kind of anything for free and cheap?
That's probably a whole nother show. Okay, so you can. What I did was I Googled. Sorry, Bing. I Googled.
Binged it.
I binged it. I Googled free advertising coupon for Google AdWords and free advertising coupon for Bing, and you can find both of those. Okay, so we are coming up to the end of this segment. When we come back, we'll have our guest, the godfather of cartoon marketing. It's going to be really fascinating. I personally love cartoons to help sell, so we got all kinds of questions for him. You're listening to Being Found. Come on back after the break.
Reading weather is heating up again, and that means...
And we're back.
Hello.
For behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. Where it gets real. It gets real.
Yeah.
That's right. So is our guest on, Jared?
No, I haven't received a call yet.
All right.
It's exciting.
Well, that'll be interesting.
The tension, man. Is this guest going to get a rose? This is getting all reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't bring anything to make a note. So when I'm editing this later, I need to remind myself to use those coupon codes. Because
Oh, yeah.
To me.
yeah. And Bing coupon codes, I never think about it, but I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of what a lot of people are, and that I'm so used to using Kleenex that I don't buy the discount tissue paper that might be just as good, and that's Bing,
Right.
That would be another.
Because
good
nobody
slogan
says they're
for
out there
them.
binging it. I'm going to go bing it.
The discount.
I'm going to
tissue
start saying
paper
that
might be
just to
good.
remind myself to use Bing more often. I do always submit to Bing Webmaster Tools and make sure that everything's submitted there, because that is traffic. But yeah, I'm going to start my new verb is binging. I'm going to be binging that.
You're going to be binging?
If normal people use Bing, because I feel like it has to just be mad people, contrarians. But
well, to be fair to the real situation, a lot of people who are using Bing aren't aware that they're doing it. They're doing it via browsers. They're doing it via apps. They're doing it because the licensing is maybe cheaper. And so people are going to Bing as a third-party search service.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're not talking about people who are purposefully, I'm not going to use Google. I want Bing here.
Right. But I mean, if you have
That
a
makes me
Yahoo
feel
homepage, or if you're using the search bar from your Flickr, or, there's all sorts of things that are connected to Bing, and you'll find yourself there.
I see.
Yeah. And I like
don't
their
think
homepage.
I've ever used Bing.
I like their homepage a lot because they put up like a nice big picture of gazelles with like little boxes, and you can hover over the boxes and it'll show you little factoids, and you can click that and find out more. So it's kind of got this like wiki sort of feel to it. I kind of like it.
Gazelles.
Well, that's just my example this time. Sometimes it'll be.
So if I go to Bing right now, you're saying I'm going to see gazelles?
Oh man. Yeah.
No,
well, see,
I don't see gazelles.
It's palm trees.
I see palm trees.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't. Yeah. Huh.
I was.
Oh, hey, there's little facts. No.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Homepage quiz. Got it.
This behind the scenes segment has gone
Totally.
off the
This
rails.
is when it gets wild, man. It's getting wild.
After 2 hours, our breaks just get wacky. So.
Well,
no,
yeah. Think about it. Now,
put a lot of effort into making something kind of cool and fun and interactive.
That's
and
true.
They put some effort.
That is nice. I shouldn't be so down on them.
Totally.
Sure.
All right, we haven't done a call yet, and we have 20 seconds.
Interesting.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Reading.com. We hope to see you soon, and remember, it's worth the ride.
Come and get me. You don't have a chance if you don't move now. I'm not waiting any longer. You know that I'm playing to win this time.
All right, welcome back to Being Found. You can follow along, beingfound.com. It's kind of fun because we basically go off the rails during the commercial breaks. For the first time in our show, we've got a guest who wasn't able to call in, so if he ends up calling in, we'll continue with him, but there's a lot more stuff we want to go over. For those of you that have been listening to the show over the last year or so, you might have noticed that I'm getting scratchy, so I'm going to call right back in.
You know, the so it's like I really find this topic interesting. And
what topic? I lost you because I had to call back in.
Something that not a lot of people are utilizing to their full extent.
Yeah. Well, I think in my Because most of the time people do. They click based on the image and perhaps the headline.
Hey guys.
An intriguing, colorful image is the hook that means that people actually read my content. But
Okay, so am I back on? Am I scratchy?
Oh yeah, you're scratchy.
yeah, that's horrible.
All right.
It's horrible. The joke of the industry.
I know.
And
I think we
was
still
just
are,
all,
but we're
and
useful.
everybody's just all, who cares about the content writer?
I know.
But I see but now every SEO firm has an in-house content writer.
You have to have content writers and owners now.
Right. And so we are about to go to break, and we have our guest, and we will be right back with Being Found.
I'm Dr. Nancy Sutton Pierce, the host of the Conscious Living Show, every Saturday, 11 to noon, here on KCNR 1460. You'll laugh, cry, and perhaps be shocked by my frank and honest conversations. I often team up with my husband, Dr. Mark Pierce, and no one makes me squirm or giggle quite like he can. We are the...
Am I still scrouchy?
Oh, that's better. Thank
Visit
goodness.
drnancysuttonpierce.com.
And we're back, and it looks like we got our guest there, Joe.
We're not live right now.
No, I know, but we're on.
We're live.
Now businesses in Shasta County have a resource to make online advertising easy. With our Jumpstart service, you can get a website with pages built to be found in search, a Facebook page, listings, and over 25 directories and a lot more for $8.99. Let Joe's Web Geeks help you so that you can get back to doing what you
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, but your radio's on. Will you turn that off?
515.
I don't have the radio on.
Huh.
I think that was our end.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, now we can hear you. We are technical marvels. Thank you for being on.
Okay.
So, Joe, why don't you take the lead here? We're in our break right now.
Yeah, and am I still scratchy, or is it okay?
You sound good now.
Yeah,
Okay.
you sound fine.
Hey, Vince. So have you been listening to the show at all? Because this show's a little different for us. Have you been listening?
I listened to a couple podcasts. I didn't
Okay.
listen to a bunch, but I listened to a couple.
Well, the reason I asked you that, because today, for the first time, we're streaming the whole show, commercials and everything, including now. We're streaming online, including the desktop, so people can see the things we're talking about. They're going to be able to see your website and anything that you go over. And so what'll happen is during there'll be a time when we're live on radio, and like right now we're on commercial break, but we're still live online. So there could be some bumps in the road, and there has been, but we're committed to making this work. So how you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
So, will I be able to see what you guys see on beingfound.com? Is that kind of the deal?
That's right.
Just make sure you turn down the video audio.
Okay.
So it doesn't
I'm just going to stay on the phone for now, and so I don't mess up any audio.
Yeah. Well, you can go to the website, Being Found, and you can watch. You'll just want to shut the audio off on the browser.
Okay. I don't have my laptop in front of me, but
We have 20 seconds left, so we go live.
All right. All right, welcome back to Being Found. We're working this out, having our show streaming online and in radio, and we had some technical difficulties. So thanks for hanging in there with us, and thanks for sticking around online. We do have our guest on, Vince Palco, aka the Godfather of cartoon marketing. How you doing, Vince?
great, fellas. How are you? Thanks so much for having me on. Really, really excited to be here and helping you do this first kind of launch with an online thing and podcast. So super, super pumped.
Yeah. I guess we should have told you we were trying something completely new before you were booked on the show, huh?
I can roll with punches. I can go.
Yeah, you're the Godfather.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So, hey, you might be one of our more talked about guests. We're super excited to have you on the show too. I'm going to try to hold back a little bit of my excitement because I've actually paid for and done the cartooning marketing in the sales process, and I found it to be awesome and worked great and was an awesome way to tell a story. So I'm going to try to hold back so I don't run this whole thing and not let you talk about it. So could you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what this idea of cartoon marketing even is?
Sure. So, again, in some circles, I'm known as the Godfather of cartoon marketing, and the business has been around since 2005. Way back when, we were the only agency doing cartoon marketing, and business was awesome for a while. And 08, 09 hit, and like many other businesses, things got tight. And I was literally down to my last business idea. I pride myself in being an idea guy. And I was taking lots of swings at the plate, and nothing seemed to be working until I had reached out to a client of mine, Mike Geary, who is a very successful internet marketer, and said, Mike, we can take your whole 15-minute sales presentation, man, and we can illustrate it, and it'll be so awesome. And he said, what do you mean, like a PowerPoint presentation with cartoons? I said, no, we can actually animate it. And since there was no one else doing it at the time, this was like 2010, going into 2011. Since no one else was doing it at the time, we had no basis for its value, and he wanted to pay me X for the project. I didn't want to accept X, but we agreed on a price up front, and then he said, if you beat my control by 10%, I'll give you a large chunk of change. If you beat it by 20, I'll double it. So I said, game on, and here I was in my little kitchen with a little easel that my parents got my kids for Christmas one year. I put a camera over my shoulder, started doodling on this board, and that doodle was the shot heard around the world in the marketing world, and essentially put it all together. He was driving major amounts of traffic to this little sales page, and we did an apples-to-apples comparison. So we took his audio file with PowerPoint, we stripped out the audio, put it into a split test, a B page that was just all ad tunes. And we didn't beat it by 10, we didn't beat by 20. Fellas, what do you think we beat it by?
Let's guess 50.
Good guess. And Mike would have been happy as a clam with 50%.
Yeah.
We ended up beating it by 85%.
Wow.
And the rest, as they say, is history. Mike being Mike, me being me. We then did some more honing and split testing and tweaking to the video, the presentation, and he saw another 268% bump, as if it couldn't get any better than 85.
Okay.
So 353 over his control. He was making $1 million a month, selling a $35, $40 PDF. And like I said, the rest, as we say, is history. And we've gone on to work with a bunch of different businesses and a bunch of different industries. But, that's kind of our origin story. Mm-hmm. I've always loved art. My mother was an art teacher. Father was in sales. So I kind of merged the two with my passion. And it worked out really, really well.
So that two questions pop into my head. So one is, can you describe a little bit about when you're talking about cartoon marketing, what do these cartoons look like? So our radio audience gets an idea of what we're talking about.
Sure. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the UPS ads back in, 06, 07 in that range, where the guy stood in front of a whiteboard and he was, he could draw something, and then, that shape would turn into a different shape and morph and change. That was the origin of all this, to be completely honest. And but we've taken that process, and every single paragraph, word, sentence gets illustrated. or becomes the white space to give people pause as to, what the presentation is all about. But basically, essentially, it's a white field with a whiteboard hand and a marker, and essentially illustrating out a presentation of any kind. It can be sales presentation. It can be, we've done projects for, internal communications. We've done e-learning applications. So there's multiple different applications for this, but the majority of them are Facebook ads that run on people's websites to help further explain their value proposition in a unique and dynamic way that beats talking head videos, that beats color animation that's real slick and sleek and professional, and any kind of PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why does this work and when is it used? It sounds like to me that cartoon heard around the world was used in the sales process. It was used to help sell or describe the value proposition. Is that typically how your cartoons are used?
We like to say we make the complex simple.
Yeah.
And so if there's any kind of complex business, the technology companies are real popular with jumping on this kind of approach to marketing because, whenever you talk to someone about technology or even, investments, financial advisors, they're jumping on this as well because, people tend to glaze over when you go into your pitch.
Right.
When you present it in an ad tune format, people, they don't glaze over. They're actually engaged because everything's laid out in front of them. You're hitting the auditory learning mechanism inside them. You're hitting the visual mechanism. And then, so it's anything that's a complex story to tell is definitely a win. But then, we have businesses that just want to grab attention on Facebook and social media. So, Facebook loves the black and red ad tune style. We've actually split tested against color animation, same audio file. Every time, we're getting high relevant scores with the black and red approach, which means cheaper ad spend for us.
And why do you think that is?
That's your question.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a couple ideas, and one is these don't look. They're professional, but they don't smell like an ad. Mm-hmm. I've had people say to us, yeah, we go on your website, and these are our clients saying this to us, and they think it's, my hand drawing and telling the story. So it comes across as an educational piece and not an advertisement. As soon as it jumps to an advertisement, it's a full color, very polished ad. People tend to shut down because they know it's an ad.
I also bet that the commitment on these, feels like less of a commitment for people to watch it, so they feel like they're just sort of dabbling, having fun, checking something out, and that they're not really, makes it palatable.
Exactly. And the other reason I'd add to that is nature abhors a vacuum, right? When you start with a white space and you start filling it in, people want to see how it's going to all unfold and what the scene is going to reveal. So
yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of factors. Those are kind of a couple of the highlights. But we love it. We love working with all kinds of different businesses and getting to, we got, a lot of obscure businesses that use our videos, and we just love working with all kinds of different interesting folks.
Yeah. And that's the big question I had is, how are these videos used? And before you answer, I just kind of want to back up for a second. So I get that they make sense to put on a website and have it, explain your service. I think that's obvious. But how else are these videos used? You mentioned ads. Do you run them in as boosted posts or ads? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. Yeah. So this is, I think when I first started, ad tunes were treated more as an engagement tool. So when you have visitors coming to your website, people all around, they're all about bounce rates, trying to get the bounce rates to go down and engagement to go up. And I think that in the beginning was the primary use for these as an engagement tool, but now these are becoming traffic generators. So Facebook obviously loves video. Facebook loves anything that is relevant to an audience. So the more likes, more shares, more comments you get, they recognize all that. And, so you're getting cheaper ad spend there. But basically using this as a tool to drive traffic to your website, to drive traffic to a podcast, to drive traffic to, a webinar of some kind. Those are a lot of the popular ways. And I'm just trying to think. And then other things like, a lot of internal communications with, you just want to engage your employees, and you don't want to have them sit through a PowerPoint presentation or a town hall meeting where everyone's falling asleep. People can create this information and send it out to their team of employees to go through the information as well. We haven't done as much of that, but, that's where we're going to focus on growing the business in the future with doing more e-learning applications and just internal communications.
Yeah, totally makes sense. That because I just keep thinking about what you're saying with that white screen, and as the story's kind of unraveling and coming together, and you're wondering what that image is going to be. All of us seem to tune in when we see something like that, as opposed to actors on a screen. There does seem to be some engagement. What did you call that engagement? You got a name for that. What was that?
Nature abhors a vacuum, which is
nature abhors a vacuum. Yeah,
that's more of a natural principle, I think, than anything. Whenever you have something empty, people want to fill it up, and they want to see, they want to naturally, fill it up in their mind's eye, or watch as someone fills it up for them.
Okay, so now
we're in the pattern interrupt business, right?
Yeah.
So most people on Facebook see color ads, they see color photos, bang, ad teams come in with a black and red, black and white approach. What's this? They see a hand drawing, they can't hear the sound, so it creates curiosity. And if anyone's ever studied copywriting 101, the main intent of any copy is what? To create curiosity, all right? Get them to read the headline. They read the headline, get them to read the first sentence. Get them to read the first sentence, get them to scroll through and read the bullets. Get them to read the bullets, get them to go back and read some of the information. So it's all about creating curiosity, and that's essentially what these do. You take the hand out of it and just make it, a generic presentation with illustrations, I think you lose the pop. I think you lose the pizzazz.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to ask some questions from the perspective of the business person who's going to hire someone like you or hire you. Again, I have actually been in a position to pay for videos like this and other videos to be made. And so I think I've got kind of a feeling for some of the challenges that happen.
Sure.
And so one of the challenges, one of the barriers I think a lot of businesses have is I don't even know where to start to think about something like this. You see these videos and they're slick and they make sense and it's a concise story, but not all businesses are prepared to tell their story concisely, are they?
No.
And what do you do? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so one of our biggest challenges is, and I'm sure people that are listening in and watching in can relate to, you're dealing with a dentist and he's got all these awards, or a lawyer, and they're speaking about their company and how great they are and how many years they've been in business, and people really don't care about that. We've all become selfish, and we have our needs, and we need to have our needs met, and so that's the biggest challenge with most businesses, that we talk about how great we are. Now, I'm not saying we don't ever do that. There's a time and place for that, but it's an element, one of many, that we drop into the story, not the only story.
Right.
So essentially for us, we have a system. What I tell a lot of people is it's a collaboration as well. So no one understands their business like them, and no one understands how to present a video presentation better than us. We've done close to 1,000 and counting of these things. So it's really through the collaboration of the client's knowledge of the needs for their clients, and our system for putting together a story that converts. And then once we have that story that converts, we then put it into a storyboard. And I don't know, I can go on from there, but does that kind of give you a sense for, how to set up the story and how to present it?
Yeah, so you're prepared to help walk the business through getting the story so that it's something a listener wants or a viewer wants to watch instead of just what the business wants to say, right? I think that was the roadblock I ran into, is I kept wanting my video to say what I wanted it to. And it was really hard for me to realize that I had to actually come from the perspective of what did my viewer want to watch. That was a challenge. Okay, so then what are some of the mistakes? So I'm looking at your website, which everyone, you can go to adtunes.com if you're listening. It looks like it's got a lot of resources to help out here. If you're watching online, you can see it. But I see here that you recognize that there's some mistakes businesses make with whiteboard animation. What are some of those mistakes?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say the biggest one is hopping over dollars to get the pennies, right? You all want to kind of, watch the investments that we make. And what I like to tell people is there's a lot of noise out there. I've had a client come to us recently, and they had done some work with another provider that was a little less expensive, and these are their words, not mine, but they liked us because English was our first language,
right?
And we understood direct response copywriting, and not only that, the art and the whole scene's unfolded in a much more polished, dynamic way. So the biggest thing is, there's other people out there that can do it. There's software out there, to be quite frank and transparent. People love our stuff because we're professionals. We've written the book on the art of selling using cartoons. We know what we're talking about. And no one else has the passion that we've had. We've, been around the longest, and first ones in dabbling in this environment. And we've actually tried the software, and we saw it decrease results. What's the story I didn't tell you about with Mike Geary? Once we hit that first one out of the park, he's like, okay, we're going to redo the female version of our presentation. We're going to redo the Spanish version. And so when we went to do the Spanish version, it was easier for us to use software to just go in and wipe out the English in the video, drop in Spanish. And we had a Photoshop hand kind of telling the story. And just like a lot of the software out there that does, it decreased results. And pretty much we haven't been back since to experiment with software. I think people can sniff out, just like if my head's on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body, they can figure that out. You know what I mean? They've got an internal sense.
No one would be able to tell if my head was on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body. They'd think it was right.
Well, it's the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
That's the term that people use for when things are real, but you can tell that there's slightly something fake about it, and you can't put your finger on it.
Okay.
Okay, so Vince, we are coming up to the end of looks like the end of the show. This show went fast.
Yeah.
So how do people get a hold of you? I know they can go to adtunes.com. How else should people get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can call our number, 419-841-3030. They can line up time to chat with me or my team, and they can go click on the consultation tab on our website and look at some of the sample videos. We have a really cool side-by-side Apple versus PC, Coke versus Pepsi. So you can see real-time software versus an authentic ad tune. You can see the nuances, the little things that we drop in there that really bring it to life in a unique way.
All right.
They can also email us at marketing@adtunes.com and just let us know you heard us on the show, and those are the best ways to get a hold of us.
Okay. Hey, Vince, thanks for coming on, and I hope you'll come on again, and I hope that our viewers and our listeners now will check out your site and look at your videos. They're awesome. You guys are definitely pros at this. So it's great having you on, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, so we're coming.
Fellas.
All right, thanks, Vince. All right, you're listening to Being Found. We are coming up to the end of the show. We're here every Saturday. We are your online marketing helpline. So come back. We'll see you next week.